Okay, Agun Shabbos, everyone. Wonderful to see everyone. We're going to begin our first year, Davar Yafeh B'Itai, connecting Parshas Eikev to the Zman of the year. Now, I'll tell you the truth. Parshas Eikev worried me more than any Parsha of recent note. That's because I was concerned. How am I going to connect Parshas Eikev to the Zman of the year? It's middle of Chodesh Av. Tisha B'Av is over. There's nothing specific now, this week, to even connect Chodesh Av to, but I'm mispalel v'sein chalkeinu b'sarasecha. Hashem should lead us in the right direction. And even though Parshas Eikev was one of the Parshas I was most concerned about, fear not, we have unbelievable material connecting Parshas Eikev to the Zman of the year. So let's start as follows. Firstly, I'm going to share with you a little one. The Parsha begins with the word V'haya. And Chazal say the word V'haya is a lashon of simcha. The Chida even on this pasuk brings V'haya, that for doing mitzvahs b'simcha, Eikev tishma'un, Hashem rewards us even in this world. So V'haya is a lashon of simcha. Why would this week's Parsha begin with a lashon of simcha? The answer is very clear. This is the Parsha in the immediate aftermath of Tisha B'Av. It's the first full week without any Bein HaMetzarim. This is the Parsha of the first full Shabbos after Tisha B'Av. So of course it's a week of Simcha. Furthermore, Parshas Eikev is the Parsha of Tu B'Av. Tu B'Av was the happiest day of the year. Therefore the Parsha begins with the word V'haya. But this was the best of all. In the Sefer Tzvi Latzadik, and I thank my friend Rabbi Eliezer Levi for directing me to this. It's also brought in many other Svarim. And for example, the Sefer Yeshuas Moshe, he brings in an amazing remez. From Tu B'Av, which again is the week of Parshas Eikev, until Rosh Hashana, how many days are there from Tu B'Av until Rosh Hashana? Reb Joe, how many days from Tu B'Av until Rosh Hashanah?
45 or 44?
Yeah, 45 or 44. 45 is a straightforward number. 45 days. So in preparation for Rosh Hashanah, how many days still does God need out of us? He's asking us, just give me 45 days to get your act together, and everything will be good for the Yom Noram, for the Yom Adin. Therefore, this week, the week of Tu B'Av, we read, V'ato Yisrael, Ma Hashem Eikecha shel me'imach. Ma, 45 is what God asks of you. This is the week of Tu B'Av. We've got 45 days left. We know that there's an idea you start preparing for the Yom Noram on Tu B'Av. Tu B'Av is even Gematria. Kesiva v'chasima toiva. You know, Tu B'Av. If you spell it out, Chamisha Asar Be'av. Chamisha Asar Be'av is Gematria Kesiva V'chasima Toiva. So the Rebbeinu Shalom wants out of us 45 days. So Ve'ata Yisrael, Ma Hashem Eikecha Shayel Me'imach. He wants 45 days out of us. Now the Sefer Tzvi Latzadik has an interesting remez that in 45 days there are 1,080 hours. Because by doing tshuva in these 45 days, 1,080 hours, we sweeten the 5 forces of Gevura, 5 forces of Din. Gevura times 5 is 1,080. I guess Gevura is Gematria 280. 216. Gevura is 216. So 216 times 5 is 1,080. By doing tshuva in these 1,080 hours, where we subdue and sweeten the forces of din. Okay, so that's another interesting and really an amazing connection. To me, that's a good, compelling connection between Parshas Eikev and the Zman of the week. It's the week of Tu B'Av. We start these 45 days. Ma Hashem Eikecha Shayel Me'imach. The Sefer Yogel Yaakov brings down another reason why we always read Eikev in the conclusion of the Bein HaMetzarim. Eikev is a reference to the end. there's an idea sometimes to be mechavein to the end. What does that mean? The letters after the Shem Havaya. So if you take Yud Kei Vav Kei, the letters after are Chaf, Vav, Zayin, Vav, Kuzu, which is the letters after the Shem Havaya. If you spell out those letters, Chaf, Vav, Zayin, Vav, you see where my icon is, where the cursor is. If you spell out these letters, Chaf, Vav, Zayin, Vav, it's Gematria Eikev. V'haya Eikev, which is the way we sweeten the Midas Hadin, which is Eikev is 86 times 2. So there's an idea that in the aftermath of the Bein HaMetzarim, one is mechaving to Eikev, the letters after the letters after the Shem Havaya. By the way, interestingly, the Ben La'ashri also finds a connection between this week's Parsha and Parshas, this week's Parsha and the Tu B'Av and the aftermath of the Bein HaMetzarim. The Gemara tells us in Tainus that on Tu B'Av the nights begin getting longer, and since the nighttime is reserved for Talmud Torah, one has to increase their learning from Tu B'Av and on. And the Ben Lashri brings a wondrous gematria, that the gematria of V'nasati mitar artzachem be'itai, and I will give the rain of your land in its time. That's gematria me'av yarumu tinas mishpat, which is Rashi Tevois Toiv Torah Shabal Peh. And the kavana is that we always read Eikev after Tu B'Av, because from Tu B'Av and on we have to learn more at night, and at night we learn Torah Shabal Peh. And this is the remez Me'av Yarumu Koil Tinas, which is of Mishnayos. Then Hashem will thereby give Parnasa to Klal Yisrael. As we've mentioned in the past, Parnasa is Gematria Mishnah. Mishnah is Gematria Parnasa. Okay, here's one more. This is something that I thought of. We know that every month is associated with another sense. So Tammuz is associated with the sense of Re'iyah, and Av is associated with the sense of Shemiah. Tishme'un, Shemiah. Interesting, if this month, Av, is the month associated with Shemiah, the parsha begins, V'haya Eikev Tishma'un, and it will be Eikev. Eikev means the heel. We are Tishma'un. This is a remez in Chodesh Av, which is connected to the sense of hearing. Sometimes we unfortunately have brought this sense down to the lowest rung, to the Eikev. V'haya Eikev Tishma'un. The month of Av, which is associated with Shemiah, we've brought down to the lowest level, Eikev. But we could say, at the end of the parsha, we also reference the Kayach HaShmiya, V'haya im shamaya tishme'u el mitzvaysai asher anoichi mitzava eschem. Where in the beginning of the parsha we talk about how in this month associated with Shmiya, the Kayach HaShmiya has been plummeted and fallen. By the end of the parsha, it talks about elevating the Kayach HaShmiya, where we have the parsha of V'haya im shamaya tishme'u el mitzvaysai. It is not coincidental that in the month of Av, the month associated with Shmiya, we have all of these references to Shmiya in the parsha. And by the way, what is the most notable Shmiya in the whole Torah? What is the most notable Shmiya? Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. What month do we read Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad? We read it during Chodesh Av, which is the month of Shmiya. I'll just reiterate something incredible that I came across. You know, every month of the year has a Shem Havaya that is associated with it. there are 12 ways to unscramble the Shem Havaya. So for example, in the month of Nisan, the Shem Havaya is Yud Kei Vav Kei, in order, as spelled out in the Rashi Tevos of Yismechu Hashamayim B'Sagel Aretz. In the month of Tammuz, the Shem Havaya that it's associated with is the Shem Havaya backward, as alluded to in the pasuk V'chol Zeh Einenu Shoiveh Li. The question though is that what is the Shem Havaya associated with Av? It's Havaya. Hey, Vav, Yud, and then Hey, that comes from the pasuk Hine Yad Hashem Haya B'Miknecha. The word Haya is the permutation of God's four-letter name that is associated with the month of Av. And the Bnei Yissaschar asks, why when we reference God's four-letter name, do we specifically reference the four-letter name associated with the month of Av? We call it Havaya. I mean, we could call it any combination of the four letters of any of the months. Why do we dafka call it Havaya? And the Bnei Yissaschar says, well, because in the month of Av, we're anticipating, we're yearning that this month is transformed into a month of redemption for the Jewish people. Because this month was the month of the destruction of our temples, and we're anticipating the coming of the Gula. Therefore, all eyes are focused on Av. We're always honed in on Av, and therefore we call it Havaya. So friends, this is the month of Havaya, right? So I was thinking, if it's the month of Havaya, probably we should have a lot of mentions of God's name this month. Does anybody know what Parsha has more mentions of Hashem's name than any other Parsha in the Torah? Eikev, 93 times. 93 times. You know, I came across something amazing. You know, some Parshiyos don't have Hashem's name at all, like Miketz and Vayigash, which is actually out of this world, because we spoke out many times how Parshas Miketz is parallel to the story of Purim. Well, here's another commonality. Just like in the Megillah, God's name doesn't appear. I didn't realize until a few days ago, in Parshas Miketz, God's name does not appear. That's out of this world. But in Eikev, it appears more than any other Parsha. So I did a little study. In what 4-week period do we read and mention God's name more than any 4 Parshiyos? By far, it's the month of Av. In V'aschanan, like 48 times. Just by way of example, Miketz 0, Vayigash 0, Vayechi only a couple. But next week, Re'eh, something like 88 times. Shoftim many times. In Av, we mention the name of God 300 and so times. Just to give you a little example, Hashem's name appears 1,820 times in the Chumash, and there are 53 Parshiyos. So do the math. How many mentions of Hashem's name should be in every Parsha?
35 or so.
35, right? So in other words,
Roughly. 54 times 35 is about 1,800.
No, it's 53 Parshiyos.
Yeah, and 1,800, right?
1800. There are 1,820 mentions of Hashem's name. So it's 1820 divided by 53. Right? What's 1820 divided by 53?
34.34.
34. So in 4 weeks, Hashem's name you should get it that 130 times, right?
45.
Yeah. And in Chodesh Av, which is the month of Havaya, it's between 300 and 400 times. There is no 4-week period of the year that we mention God's name more than Chodesh Av, and none more than this week's Parsha, Parshas Eikev. And we could also add, this is on Tisha B'Av we said Hashem ein b'tzion, that the name of Hashem is absent. So we immediately want to fulfill it. We want to be mashlim it with all of these mentions of Hashem's name. Okay, so that's the first offering for today.